A few months back, we put out the bat signal to you, the viewers. The question was, what piston guns do you want to see on the show? Now, the usual suspects were nominated, of course, but a name that popped up several times was S.W.O.R.D International. Truthfully, they were not a company I was aware of, but the more I looked into them, the more I got intrigued. So, is S.W.O.R.D International making a sleeper piston gun?
Everyone, hope you're enjoying the video thus far. If you have not, subscribe to the channel. We have a lot of good stuff going on at the company known as the 1911 Syndicate. We work a lot of different real estate operations in different states. Chris is in Arizona, I'm in Utah. We've got Patreon, which is more valuable than ever to us for things we'll save for another day. But we do appreciate the support. We got links below for all the stuff that you should know. Let's talk about S.W.O.R.D.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, S.W.O.R.D.
So I did not know what S.W.O.R.D stood for when I first started doing this review. Let's see if we can remember from the top of our heads, because it does take a sec.
Special Warfare Operations Research and Development.
Nailed it.
Boom!
There it is. And I have notes with that down here, but we opted to try to do it without that.
With memory.
So look guys, it's a company, they're founded 10 years ago, Army Ranger. They still have a lot of special operations guys and special operations vets that work for the company now. And that makes sense once you start to understand a little bit about their background and sort of the clientele that they're catering to. I will be the first to tell you, I had not heard of them.
Yeah.
And because that's largely because they kind of got their start making precision guns.
That's how I knew them.
Yeah.
I think they were one of the first, if I'm wrong, maybe you have it in your notes, that started fucking around with the 338 Lapua round.
Yeah, it is one of those rounds. They have a legit gun for. Yeah, it might be 338. Yeah, but I'm not a big precision shooter. You know, it's just not what I do. So I was not aware of that, and I think part of the other reason a lot of us haven't heard of them. My caveat would be, there's a lot of like really good companies out there that you simply haven't heard of yet.
Yeah,
you know,
I mean, under the radar.
The sling, you know, the Sly Tactical sling that's on that. You know, that was a case of, we reviewed that sling and we're like, these things are fantastic,
awesome.
and we've never heard of these guys. And sometimes you just don't know until you know.
Yeah.
Part of that too is because their focus as a company, from talking to them, and I've talked to them a couple times on the phone leading into this, is very much focused on the military law enforcement environment, more so the military environment. So that sometimes will not cross over with the civilian market as much, because hey, in their case, they don't, and I think they would even admit this, they don't apply a lot of effort inside of the civilian world.
Yeah.
Not because they don't like us, it's just because they're more of a military-based company.
Yeah.
But
well, and real quick, to be fair, that was the same thing with Sly. They got a lot of guys in the military, a lot of units running them, lots of law enforcement, but not so big on the commercial civilian scene, right?
Yep.
And now they're getting more and more popular, and frankly, it's the best on the market. But
yeah,
I think it's something, you know, people discount that with brands like, well, I've never heard of them, so they can't be good.
Right.
No. It's because they're catering or working with and fulfill certain contracts for really cool dudes.
Yeah.
And they're just busy doing that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, and so kind of the case study that look, to be transparent, I did not know a lot about this heading into it, but we got into a conversation. I started doing articles on it on the M855A1 project. And this was a new one to me. I know a lot of the hardcore, you know, gun guys that study this stuff and be like, yeah, we've known about that for years. I did not know. So basically the premise was, just to kind of illustrate the, you know, S.W.O.R.D and what they do, is that, okay, you've got standard M855, right?
Yep.
AKA green tip ammunition, right? Green tip 5.56.
Light armor piercing stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
And what it's good at is hard targets, you know, an armored target, door, what, you know, vehicle, whatever it is, body armor, yada, 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 right? But on a soft target, just too hot.
Yeah.
Like it just zips through. And I mean, you can find accounts of that, like, especially with Mogadishu from...
Brad Thomas talked about it.
Yeah. From the accounts I read,
He talked about, like, on a saw, a couple dudes come around the corner. You've listened to this podcast.
Yeah.
And he's like, I can see them taking the shots, still running and still fighting because it's just zipping through, dude.
Yeah.
So, I mean, now they, in that story, and you know, we'll caveat here, they get behind a minivan and he's like, dude, I just put like 2 nut sacks into the van.
Yeah.
Like, and he says, did it kill him? I don't know. But they're probably not doing too well.
Yeah, you know, something happened.
So again, punching through that, you know, hard target into a soft target.
Yeah, you
right?
go, okay, hey, it's good at that, but not great against soft target. And
Yeah.
you go, okay, well, the alternative is just standard ball ammunition, and that does good against soft targets, right? Tumble, all that kind of stuff, but doesn't do so great against hard targets. So the military kind of has that dilemma, and they go, okay, well, let's create the A1 project, what they call, what do they call the thing? It's like what do they call it? EPR.
Oh.
EPR, enhanced performance round.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, again, new stuff on me.
Yeah.
So basically it was designed to be a compromise between good at soft, good at hard, with the caveat, and I think it was a leading factor in it, that it had to be lead free. So it's a copper round because to my understanding, I think that's getting mandated. No one quote me on that inside of the military, they've got to start migrating towards that. Again, don't quote me, but that's kind of the direction that it's heading right now, is towards lead free, because 1, you know, EPA, environmental regulations. 2, shooter health.
Yeah.
Dudes that are, I mean, especially dudes who are shooting a lot of rounds suppressed.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot of carbon, it's a lot of stuff that you don't want going into your body. So basically the A1 project was to design this round that's lead free, but it's good, hard, soft targets, all that kind of stuff.
Interesting.
But the problem with it is that apparently it has extremely high pressures and absolutely just annihilates guns. So it breaks everyone's guns.
Okay.
Yeah, bolt carrier groups, all that kind of stuff. It just trashes guns. So to come full circle with this, S.W.O.R.D, right, has been working on designing their system around the A1 round. So I was like, okay, that's cool. Doesn't really matter to me. But then I thought about it, I go, well, the civilian market takes their cues from the military market. We all know that.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever happens at CAG and SEALs and whatever, it trickles down, right? And then SWAT has, and then civilians are seeing it, and you're like, oh man, we got to do that thing, right?
Yeah.
300 blackout, great example.
Great example.
But you go, okay, let's say now inside of the civilian market, S.W.O.R.D's looking at future military market stuff, but if you go, well, what if we get taxed with like lead-free rounds and stuff like that, and you have to go to something like A1, you go, dude, our guns are done.
Get beat up.
Like our guns are going to get trashed, you know? So again, they're making that tech and all the stuff that they're doing with that available in their civilian guns. I think it's forward thinking. Like, it's cool stuff.
Let's reverse that. You get a gun like this that's built for M855A1 and you're just shooting standard ammo through it, it's going to last way longer.
Yeah, I mean, it should just be an absolute tank.
Yeah.
You know?
So it's a win-win all around, right?
Yeah. All right, so let's actually look and break down the gun now.
Yeah.
So this is the Mark 15 IDC, and that stands for Individual Duty Carbine. It is kind of the hallmark feature of what you should know. It is a short stroke gas piston system, and that is very buzzy, right? And a lot of people, you know, I feel like there's people on both sides of the fence here, right? There's the military loves it, right? Because you get the hardcore reliability.
Yep.
Right? You know, like that's part of why the 416 is so, you know, iconic.
Yep.
Yeah, you know, just takes a beating. So I think, you know, not that we're gonna debate piston versus DI, but hey, look, in the pros category, you go crazy reliability for the most part. I mean, you know, you could have a lemon here and there. Suppressed, usually a good suppressor host.
Yep.
Right? Just because some of that carbon is going to be bleeding off versus going back in the system. So guns typically run a little bit cleaner if you're running a piston gun with a can on it. The can in question, for those who want to know, is it's one of your favorites.
CGS.
Helios QD 556. Really good can. And just for those curious, it is on Dead Air's Xeno mount, which is kind of new, I believe. I think it's a relatively new product from them, but basically it's a taper mount so that if you don't want chemo, which really I think your only thing with that could just be weight. It's just, it is a heavy system, good system, heavy system. The Xeno is just a different system. For those who ask, there you go. There's that, and it does sound. And this gun has operated really nicely as a suppressor host. Disclaimer.
Yeah.
Chris hasn't even shot this gun yet. Straight up, guys, this is day 3 of filming for us on our little special project here. It's 10:22 p.m. And we haven't even gotten around to shooting this gun yet, as comical as that sounds.
Yeah.
So Chris doesn't have a lot of opinion, minus what you can tell from just dry handling a gun.
I mean, I can tell you right now, fit and finish is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
There's no wiggle in that gun anywhere.
Very tight lockup, very, very nicely machined gun. So to talk, you know, and like say some of the, you know, everything's trade-off. Some of the cons of pistons would be typically it's going to be heavier, right? Just going to have more moving parts. Typically a little bit snappier on recoil because again, more moving parts.
I wouldn't say snappier. It's more of like a thud into your shoulder instead of like a sharp little punch, right?
Yeah.
It'd be like the thud of a 45 compared to a 9.
Sure, I can get on board with it. You know, however you
someone's gonna
go
be
with that.
pissed with that analogy.
Yeah, you know. Proprietary parts would be one thing that some people could get on the piston case about.
And I used to be that person.
Sure. Yeah.
But if you get a well-made gun that is just gonna last forever, reliability in those parts has become like a moot point. Like I need it to be reliable enough to go to the range for a day.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. That's kind of how I always look at it. Like, well, define reliability. Their guy who's like, well, my gun needs to go 50,000 rounds without cleaning. Does it though? So anyway, the piston in question, so it's S.W.O.R.D's own design. So it is a proprietary system, right, to them. But it is self-regulating, and that's really cool, and it's a nice feature that's unlike some of the other stuff that's out there where essentially you'll have a, you know, suppressed setting.
Positions for it.
Normal, adverse, I mean the STIR, the grenade launcher setting.
Yeah, PWS, my PWS that has settings.
Yeah. I mean my Type A has like 30 position adjustable, you know, so you go, hey look, there's a lot of them that are adjustable. And then there's some that are self-regulating, kind of like 416, you know, regulating self-piston systems, basically taking what it needs and then get rid of the rest. The handguard is, look, piston handguards are typically beefy.
But this one's not.
It's beefier than a typical DI gun, but not by a lot.
No.
Not by a lot, though. It is very, as you said, very, very nicely machined. Very nicely machined gun.
It feels quality.
It feels quality.
Yeah.
It reminds me, I don't, no, you weren't there for this. For those, anyone who's been like, why have Chris and Jake been in separate videos for a month? It would just wound up being a scheduling thing where we lost footage, and so Chris had to film solo, and I was solo, yada. I don't think you were there when I was filming the Sons of Liberty gun.
No.
Same thing, where like you just grab the handguard and you're like, man, it's just a good meaty handguard.
Feels quality.
Same kind of thing with that, where you grab it and you're just like, that's a nicely done handguard. M-LOK compatible, which is good and kind of the norm these days. The offsets, you don't have M-LOK. It's more cut to, shave some weight, get some ventilation.
Yeah. Mitigate some of that heat.
Yeah. I will say on the handguard note too, that gun, even running suppressed, and I mean, if you don't shoot a lot suppressed, your gun is going to get toasty quicker, but stays, again, you'll find this out tomorrow morning when we finally wrap up this shoot, but gun does stay really cool running suppressed.
I'm excited to experience that firsthand.
Yeah. So runs really nicely on that.
Yeah, so we're kind of going over some of the parts on this. It is a cold hammer forged barrel that is also nitrided on the outside, correct?
Yeah. I guess it's outside.
It is. Yeah.
Yes. And I know, different people have different opinions. I'm not here to chime in on that. I'll be honest. Nitriding, chrome line, whatever, it's all above my pay grade.
Right.
But it'll come in a 16 or an 11.5. So you can take your pick on that. I will fully concede I'm kind of drawn to 11.5s.
Yeah.
Especially if you're running a can on that.
Yep.
As a 16 and a piston gun, you are going to get a heavy, pretty long gun at that point.
Yep.
Price on these guys is $2,200. Now, couple of things. One, the 22 hundo is going to come with pretty mil-spec furniture. So whether it be a stock or pistol brace, whatever variation you have, it's just going to be mil-spec stock.
We got B5 on here.
Yeah, so. So stock, charging handle, safety grip, trigger, muzzle device are all going to be your sort of like baseline. It's not going to be anything fancy, right? And that's going to be your $2,200 gun. If you want to upgrade it roughly as seen here, you're going to tack on $500-600 between muzzle device and stock trigger, all that kind of stuff, right? But so you go, okay, all in, it's about $2,800.
Yep.
And that is a lot. I don't discount that. But the reality is, if you look at some of the alternatives, you go, and this is, I get it. Every manufacturer hates being compared to every other manufacturer. I understand, but that is kind of how we operate as human beings.
Gotta do apples to
You're going to
oranges
be a
type
critic. That's what you have to do, right? So, hey, I go, a comparison point would be the new B&T 15 when it's a 10.5 instead of 11.5. Personally, I'd rather have 11.5. That's just personal preference. But that's a $3,500 gun. And it is pretty damn mil spec. And I was like, man, at $3,500, like, you better have that thing pimped out.
Yeah.
So when you start talking about 2,800 Gucci'd out with all the good stuff, you go, look, I think it's pretty damn justified.
And this one does have a loft holder. So
yeah, you would have to tack that on. That's not a stock feature.
Yep.
But
which also, you know, talking about weight, that does adds quite a bit of weight.
Yeah.
So you could shave with that if you wanted to. Obviously, the point of this gun, fold it up. Right.
Yeah.
So.
And like the gun overall in its current configuration is a heavy, kind of thick, meaty gun. But you go, well, it's got an Elcan. It's a piston
23
gun.
ounces.
Right. Thick handguard. The CGS, even they concede this. Like
23 ounces also.
It's a heavy suppressor.
Yeah.
So look, it does have heavy features, so it's a heavy gun. But that's, you know, a combination of the gun being a littler on the heavy side with heavy accessories on top of it. But that is a little bit of the tour.
So there you have it. The S.W.O.R.D International IDC enters our list of great sleeper guns of 2021. The inevitable question people will ask is, why would I buy this over other Piston ARs? Like the SIG MCX, for example, which is an excellent gun. And the answer, buy what you want to buy. The answer is also, good luck finding an MCX for less than a price that'll make you want to weep. Having shot some of the competitors, I can tell you the shootability, reliability, balance of the S.W.O.R.D is really excellent. I get excited when I find great products that I was prior unaware of. And believe it or not, my list of guns to buy is pretty small. And the IDC just made the list.